All a Tim Burton Batman movie really needs is for Bruce Wayne to finger paint his nails black. That's it. Totally goth. Hey everybody, this is David, and today I'm going to be talking about the 1989 Batman film starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, and directed by Tim Burton. And this was the very first official Batman movie, because there was a Batman movie back in the 60s with Adam West and Burt Ward, but a lot of people don't really count that one because it was more of a tie-in to the TV show at the time. This was the first official Batman movie, and it came out after the time the Superman franchise was practically done. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, had come out, bombed in the box office 2 years prior. And so Batman came in and rescued DC and WB. And what did I think of this movie? I want to talk about it. So let's get through some of these things. Of course, one of the first things you have to talk about when talking about this movie is Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is such a huge part of this film, especially back then when people doubted him. This was like a scenario like Heath Ledger when he was casted as the Joker, or when Ben Affleck was casted recently as Batman himself. There was a lot of backlash with Michael Keaton as Batman, and he had a lot to prove because at that time, Michael Keaton was known as this comedic actor. He was a comedian and doing a lot of comedy roles like Mr. Mom. And before this one, literally right before, he was doing Beetlejuice. So could he play a badass, the Batman that people knew from the comics, from the Frank Miller comics were just released not too long ago before this movie came out? And the great thing is, Michael Keaton is still today one of people's favorite Batman. Some people even put him right up there with Christian Bale right now. Will Ben Affleck get up to that status? We'll have to wait and see. But Michael Keaton is definitely a great actor. This shows why Michael Keaton is so awesome. Not only can this guy play comedic roles, but he can also play these serious, dramatic roles and be very intimidating. It doesn't matter about Michael Keaton's size at this point. I know a lot of people, make fun of him because of how short he is, but literally, you could trick all the audience with camera angles and stuff like that, So the size of an actor doesn't really matter when it comes into play. I mean, Hugh Jackman is taller than what Wolverine should be. No one complains there. Another thing I gotta say about Michael Keaton is his Bruce Wayne portrayal. He does great as Batman, but his Bruce Wayne is a little off to me. I'm not going to blame that on Keaton because acting-wise, he's still phenomenal. But I feel that the way the character was played out, how he's this weird, awkward character, didn't feel right to me. It felt like, he was shouting out, letting people know that he was Batman, when he should have actually been trying to keep this identity. And again, I don't blame this on Keaton. I blame this more on the directing, writing aspect of it, I guess. So there you go on that. We also have to talk about Jack Nicholson, who is phenomenal. Sometimes, for a lot of people, he even steals the show. And Jack Nicholson was a no-brainer at the time because he did movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and The Shining. And so lots of people instantly knew right away that Jack would be a great fit for the role of the Joker. In my opinion, personally, I put Heath Ledger way above. I think Heath Ledger has made me realize that Jack Nicholson doesn't compare. But for his time, I mean, remember, Jack, he's a little demented sometimes, it seems, in his movies. And that's why he was such a great fit, though, right? Because of how sick his characters could be sometimes. And that's what Jack Nicholson was here. He was a sick, demented freak. And you love him in this role because that's what the Joker is, right? I could just imagine back during the 1980s, if the internet was around, people would be like petitioning, "We want Cesar Romero back as the Joker." I wouldn't be surprised. We also get this lovely female in distress, Vicki Vale, played by Kim Basinger, and she does her job well. I mean, as an actress, she's really good. And I'm going to admit this, I think Vicki Vale is a better interpretation of Lois Lane than the Margaret Kidder's Lois Lane from the Christopher Reeve Superman films. I actually think she's that good level of balance. Just like the original Superman movie, this movie also has a great score. I think Danny Elfman, I'll admit it, he's no John Williams, but I do think he's come up with some iconic scores throughout his time. And the Batman score is definitely one of those more popular scores that he had achieved. And I mean, it was so good that the animated series even used it on their show. You also have to admit that the visuals in this film are really good. The art direction, the set pieces, everything in this film feels and looks really good. And I think the reason behind that is because Tim Burton himself comes from an animation background and he has an eye for art. He's definitely shows that in this movie visually. The look of Gotham looks really good. The look of the characters, Batman and Joker themselves, looks really good. It definitely kind of feels like a comic book, but at the same time, it feels like something else. Something pretty artistic, if you think about it. I will admit, though, that the film does drag a little bit, especially in today's day and age when superhero films have gotten a lot more better paced, in my opinion. But that doesn't stop the movie from still being wildly entertaining. I still think the movie still holds up much better than the Christopher Reeve Superman films. And with that, I think I'd recommend this to any Batman fan. If you are a fan of Batman, I think you will enjoy this movie. And superhero films in general, of course. This movie did inspire a lot that came after it. I mean, if you look at the Flash TV series of the 90s, they were trying to emulate that style that Tim Burton had created in that Batman movie. Many other films like Darkman and The Shadow have also taken inspiration. A lot of films and shows that were superhero based were trying to copy what Tim Burton had. And I mean, Warner Brothers even trusted Tim Burton at one point to make a rebooted Superman film during the late 90s. Don't forget that. Check out The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, directed by John Schnepp. It's a really good documentary. It will tell you everything. So with that being said, guys, I think I'm going to end this here and say that this is a great movie. It still holds up. Maybe it's not as great as other superhero movies today, but I still think there's a lot there to check out, especially, like I said, if you're a superhero fan or even a Batman fan in general and want to just check out more Batman. So there you have it. I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10, and that's a solid score. And until next time, guys, take care.